Hello again, everyone. This is ZombieKidzRule, and I'm back with another RPG Maker MZ tutorial video. In this video and this tutorial, what I want to do is I want to show you how to use a script to map a key, to map a key on your keyboard that you could use. But I'm also going to show you the problem with that, because I have seen a couple tutorials and some information that I followed and I experimented with, and I thought everything was great, and then come to find out with help from the RPG Maker web.com forum community, come to find out that if you use a script in an event, like either a map event or a parallel event, to map a key, that doesn't persist after you save and completely exit the game and then reload your save. So it doesn't continue on. So that would be a problem. So I'm going to show you exactly what happens there, and then an easy alternative to fix that is you can I'm going to show you a very simple plugin that you can make. It's a very easy plugin. I will copy and paste the contents of the plugin into the description of this video, and I'll show you and I'll tell you how to make the plugin. It's very simple. And once that plugin is activated, when your game starts, right, or loads or whatever, the plugin's going to run, and that key is going to be mapped, or all the keys that you decide to map in the plugin, those are active. They've been mapped, and therefore throughout your game you can press those keys to do something. They are usable keys. So I'm going to show you that very simple plugin that you can make and use, and then I'm going to show you a parallel event, whether you make it a map event or a common event. And what it's doing is it's looking for certain keys to be pressed and then to do something. So it's a simulation of, say for instance, you wanted to map keys so that when the player pressed them, certain things opened, like say certain games. You press M and you open up the map. You press I, you open up the inventory. You press C, you open up the character page, or something like that. So I'm going to show you that parallel event where it's checking to see what's being pressed and then doing whatever you tell it to do. But I'm also going to show you one way to limit it, where once one of the keys is pressed and something is open, none of the other keys work until that first thing is closed. Because maybe you don't want the player to be able to open the map and the inventory and the character page, because they'll overlap or whatever. You don't want them to be able to do all of those things. So I'm going to show you one way where you can limit that parallel event to say, hey, the player opened one of the things, they have to close it before they can open something else. So we're going to go through all of those things in this video, in this tutorial. It's really not complicated. It's actually pretty easy. It's kind of cool. So I'm going to put my caveats out there. I usually try to remember to say, I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I've been using MZ for about 3 years now. I've learned a lot, but I have a lot more to learn. And so I don't say that this is the only way to do something. What I like to do is if I figure something out that I think is going to be helpful for me and maybe helpful for others, and if I haven't seen a tutorial on it that explains it and makes it available to people to help them, then I try to make a tutorial for it, as long as I have time. So again, I do think this is a functionality that can help people in certain types of games that they want to make. So I'm putting it out there, and again, there may be other ways to do this. There may be plugins that already do this, but this is a way you can do it yourself without other plugins, right? Without additional plugins. And again, I never say that there's only one way to do something or that what I'm doing is the best way to do it. And I will also link you to the thread on rpgmakerweb.com, the forums, where I asked questions about this. I got assistance. I got assistance in making the plugin, and then a user called Bass2 Yang actually gave an alternative way to do that parallel event to check for what's being pressed. And it looks cool. I don't know what it's doing though. I don't completely understand it. I don't understand the code that is being put into the function that is being put into a plugin, right? So I don't completely understand it. So I'm not going to go through it. I will play with it later, experiment, try to figure it out exactly what it's doing. And if I do, then maybe I'll make a follow-up tutorial. But for now, we're just going to go through what I've been able to do. So first, let me show you. Let me just show you what happens when you map a key using a script. Okay, an event command script. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, and I'm going to have a new game. Now it says press the I key. Okay, I'll press the I key. It opened up something. That would be a pretend background for an inventory. Press the key again, it goes away. So I'm pressing the I key, and it's turning on and off, on and off, on and off. Okay? Very, very, very simple, very easy. But watch what happens. I'm going to save this. Okay? I'm going to go back and show you that this still works. That's the I key. I'm going to now end the game. Go to title. Now, if I go right back in, if I continue from there, it's still okay. If I press the I key, still okay, still working. But if I end the game and I actually close the game, so now it's closed, I go back in and I continue that game. If I press the I key, nothing happens because that key is no longer mapped. Okay, it's no longer mapped. It doesn't persist when you save, completely exit, and then go back in. So I've seen tutorials for this, and I've seen people who suggest that you can do this, and you certainly can, but it's not going to stay mapped. So this is what is happening. A parallel event is doing this script, Input.keyMapper, and then the number in these brackets is the JavaScript code, or the code that JavaScript uses to identify the key on your keyboard. Okay, and then it's equal to, and then in single quotations, the I key. Now I'm going to pause the video for a second because I forgot a resource that I want to show you. Okay, so this is the resource that I wanted to show you. It is a website. I will put this website in the description of the video as well. But essentially what it allows you to do is, it says press any key to get the JavaScript event key code information. So I press the I key, and it tells me that the event.key is I, and the code that I need to know is 73. So when, I'll just give you an advanced look. When we make our simple plugin, we need to know the number that is associated with the key that we're going to use. So 73 is the I key. Okay? So when I'm on this website, I can just press keyboards. That's an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so forth. So I need this number to use in my script. Okay, so I'm going to go back here, and the simple script that we use, Input.keyMapper. Remember to watch for your upper and lower cases. In brackets, the number, that's the code for the key, 73, equals, and then in single quotations, the actual key, right? The I, the A, the B, the C, the D, or the like the number 1, 2, 3. That's the script, right? So you do that in your event commands, page 3, script, and that's where you put that script. Okay? So that's how you map the key. And so that's what happened when I pressed play. This ran parallel, immediately started. It mapped the key. It showed the, using a plugin, text picture, it showed that information on the screen. Press the I key. Showed the picture, which is press the I key. That's this line and this line are basically showing that message. Then it turned self switch A on, so it moved to this page, which doesn't do anything. Basically, it stopped that parallel event from running. Then this event is also running in parallel, and it's the check that's being done to see if the I key is being pushed by the player. So it's a very simple conditional branch. So edit. Here's my conditional branch. Page 4, script, input.isTriggered, and then within parentheses, within single quotations, the key, the I key. Okay? So when I go into conditional branch on page 4, where I used script, but right here is button. And these are the keys that are already mapped on your keyboard by RPG Maker MZ. We would not want to remap these, okay? We would not want our plugin to remap any of these. So you can already use a conditional branch to select one of these, and then you select one of these options. Is being pressed, is being triggered, or is being repeated. And these all work a little bit differently, and you can take these words and replace them in this script. So instead of is triggered, you could change it to is pressed or is repeated, and that would work. So what this is doing, this is checking, is saying if, and then using a script, if the I key is triggered, right? That's what this script is doing in a conditional branch. If the I key is triggered, then check this right here. It's another conditional branch. It's a nested conditional branch, and there's an else in here. So the first thing it checks is, it's going to check a switch. If inventory menu is off, so we haven't pressed the I key for the first time yet, so the switch for the inventory menu is off. Well, then show the picture. That would be the inventory, right? So in this example, it's just a background. And then turn that switch on, right? Control switches, inventory menu, we're turning that on. Why? Because this just keeps running in parallel. It keeps constantly checking to see if the I key is pressed. So once it does this the first time, the player presses the I key again, it's going to check and say, inventory menu, is that on or off? If it's on, it's going to go down here to the else branch, and it's going to say, oh, I need to erase that picture, right, the background, and I need to turn that switch off, so that the next time it's triggered, it's pressed, right, it's triggered, then it checks and say, is the inventory menu off? Yes, it's off. Well, let me show it to you again and turn that menu on. Okay? So that's a very, very simple conditional branch. And you're going to see this again when I show you that that way to have a parallel event, whether it's a map event or a common event, checking to see if what keys are being pressed that you want to do something. Okay, so that's those two events, and again, right, this is how you map the key, and then this is how you check to see if that key is being triggered, because even though I map the key, right, even though I map them, even if I do it with the plugin, they're not going to show up here, right? Nothing is going to show up here that I map. You're going to have to use the script option. Okay, you're going to have to use the script option for any key that you map, either in an event or through a plugin. Okay, so that's the first thing that I wanted to show you. You can do it, but it doesn't carry over with your saves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this event, I'm going to make this parallel, and I'm going to turn these off because these aren't supposed to run now. Okay, so these are no longer going to run. And when I run this, that's set to parallel, yep. So first, before I do it, I have to turn that plugin back on. So there's my custom keys. I'm going to turn it on, okay, and I'm going to apply it. So now my plugin is active. And let me show you this plugin. So this is a very, very, very simple plugin. This top portion up here is just a comment. It's just a description of things. It doesn't actually do anything, okay? And what it's telling you is that you know, the target is MZ. Here's a description of it. Add custom keyboard controls. Author is me, and I had help from a user named caethyril on the forums. Here is the actual. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the description of the video. But there's the thread on rpgmakerweb.com that you can find all the information. Back and forth and the assistance that I got. And then, you know, this is free to use or modify. Anybody can use it. No credits required. You know, this is just for anybody to use. This is the actual, you know, real content of the plugin. This is what's making the changes. And each one of these is just Input.keyMapper. Then you have to have that key code, right? You have to use that website. And then you have to say it's equal to, well, which key? So this is the 0 key. This is the 1 key, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. And then A, B, C, D, E, F, etc., and the brackets. Now, what I will tell you is there is a list of keys that RPG Maker already uses. And when you go down through this alphabet, you're going to see that the Q, the W, and the Q and the X and the Z are already used. So we can't map them. Well, we can, but then we're going to cause problems. So W, Q, X, and Z are already mapped. We don't want to touch those. So these are just a bunch of other keys that you might want to use for things that you might want to be able to say, hey, if this is triggered, I want to do something else, or if this is pressed, or if this is repeated. All right. So this is the plugin. All you have to do is take this content, put it into something like Notepad++, save it as a JavaScript file. So when you put it in Notepad++ and you go to save, it's going to allow you to do a pull down to say how you want to save it. You can select JavaScript, and then it saves it as a .js file, okay, a .js file. And then what happens is once you have that plugin, made, right? It's on your computer as a JS file. You just go to your project. My project is Random Map Test. You go to your JS folder. You go to your plugins folder, and here it is already. You would just copy and paste it into this plugins folder. Here's my custom keys. Okay? So again, your project folder, the JS folder, the plugins folder, and then you just can copy and paste it in there. All right? So I will post this content in the video description. You can literally copy and paste it into Notepad++, for instance. There are other software tools, I'm sure. Anything that allows you to save something as a JavaScript file. Okay? And then it'll be a .js file. And you just have to put it in your plugin folder. And once it is in your plugin folder, you just go to your plugin manager, double click on an empty line, check up here, pull down, use these ellipses, and these are all the plugins that are available for me to turn on or off. And there's my custom keys. Okay. And then once you do turn it on and activate it, you would need to, it's always good to save and then start a new game. Okay. All right. So the plugin is active now, right? Yes, the plugin is active now. So I'm going to go to this event. Actually, I'm just gonna show you that it's working, and then I'll show you the event. So I'm going to play test. New game. Okay, so it's not telling me to do anything, but I'm going to tell you what keys I'm pressing. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Now Q is already mapped, so I'm not going to press Q. R, S, T, U, V. W is already mapped. W. X is already mapped. Y. Z is already mapped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, bracket, bracket. So all of those, so I know the plugin's working. So, because all those keys worked to do what I asked them to do. Okay, so this is the event that is checking for that. It's a parallel event. This is a map event. You could also put this in as a common event, right? Making it run in parallel. And all it is a series of conditional branches. If script input.isTriggered, and then it's the A, then show the text you pressed A. If it's B, you pressed B. If it's C, you press C. And it goes through all of these, all the way down to the bottom, and then it jumps back to the top, and it goes down through again. So it just keeps going through these. Loop, 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 constantly checking for these to be pressed. I just did this to test to make sure that the plugin is right, that everything is working correctly. And it's actually a good thing that I did, because initially I mapped two other keys. I mapped the minus key and the equals key, and they didn't work. Now, I don't know whether it's because the website I used has a different key code than perhaps RPG Maker recognizes. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was. But the minus and the equal key just didn't work. So this was a simple event to make sure that once you make the plugin, once you activate the plugin, you can make sure that it's actually working as designed, and you didn't make any mistakes. You didn't, have any typos in there. All right, so just a whole bunch of conditional branches checking for each key, right? And it's the same thing that I showed you before. Conditional branch, page 4, script, and there's your input.isTriggered, and then the parentheses, the single quotes, and the actual key, right? The key itself. Now, here's the other thing that I will show you. I'm going to go ahead and play test this again. Okay. And I'm going to turn my caps lock key on. So you saw that, right? So now it's off. Caps lock key is on. I'm going to press A. Doesn't matter. It still works. B. C. Okay. So it doesn't matter if the caps key is on or off, right? It still recognizes the key. So that was one of the questions I wasn't sure of. I had to test to make sure. All right, so now I'm going to turn that event off because I don't want it to run. And now I'm going to turn this event on. Okay, this is the parallel. It's going to run in parallel. Now I'm going to show this to you, and I was lazy. I took the easy way. I don't have a simulated map yet. I don't have a character sheet. I don't have a real inventory type thing. So I just wanted to do a quick test for functionality. So what I did instead was I used character portraits. And let me just show you how this is working. So I mapped the keys F for fighter, R for ranger, P for paladin, and C for cleric. So when I press the F key, this image shows up. When I press the F key again, it goes away. P for paladin, R for ranger, C for cleric. And I made it so the pictures are not on top of each other so you can see that they're not active at the same time. So I press F again, and now I'm going to press P. Nothing happens. Press R. Nothing happens. Press C. Nothing happens. I have to press F again for that to go away. Now P, F, R, C. Nope. P. R, F, P, C. Nope. R. C, F, P, R. Nope. C. So this is simulating that once you open something, it's gonna be there, open, show you whatever you want it to show, do whatever you want it to do. The other keys, even though that parallel event is still running, the other keys aren't going to do anything until you turn that option off. Okay? So that's the functionality, that's how it's working. So let me show you how to do it. This is simply 4 conditional branches. Remember I said I had 4 keys. I had F, P, R, and C. It's 4 conditional branches that are identical. All you have to do is just change a tiny bit of information. So it's basically you make one of these, and as long as you know that it's working properly, then you can copy and paste this 4 times or however many times you want, and then you just change the necessary information. So let me go through this. Let me explain what's happening here, and then hopefully it makes sense. So first off, I have a label fighter, and I'll explain why this is necessary in just a minute. So remember, this is a parallel event, so this is looping through constantly, waiting for something to happen. So it's looping. First conditional branch check here, okay? If, and you've seen this before, script input.isTriggered and then the letter F. So basically what this is saying is if the F key is triggered, then you need to do something. Well, it's going to check this conditional branch just like the previous event I showed you with an else. And it's going to say, okay, F key was triggered. Now what? If fighter is on. Remember I told you I was lazy? I reused switches and things that I've already experimented with. So if the fighter switch is off, right, meaning it hasn't been shown yet, then show the picture, turn the switch on for fighter, wait 1 frame, that was actually important, and then jump to label fighter, which is back here. Why am I wanting it to do that? Well, I don't want it to continue to run through here and check these ones. I don't want it to do that, because if it checks these ones, it will open multiple pictures up. It will open up multiple menus, right? So this is important. Jump to label fighter. It jumps up here, and then it says, is this being triggered? No, it's not being triggered. So it's going to skip down to here, and it hits a new conditional branch. If fighter is on, oh, it is on, because the F switch was pressed, the F key was pressed, and the fighter switch was turned on. So it gets down here and it says, if fighter is on, jump to label fighter. Go back up here. Well, what this is doing, this new conditional branch, right? You notice it's not a nested conditional branch. It's not within this part, right? This is a nested conditional branch of this. This is at the same level as this one, right? They're at the same level. So this conditional branch is basically making this a small loop. So once the F key is triggered, once you press the F key and this fighter picture shows up and the switch is turned on, it's going to stay in this little loop until you press the F key again. So it's looping, it's looping, it's looping, it's looping. You press the F key again, and it says, okay, F key was pressed. Is the fighter switch on or off? Well, it's on. So I'm going to check the else branch. The else branch says, erase the picture, so get rid of it, and then turn that switch off. So once that happens, this parallel event just starts looping through the entire event, waiting for a key to be pressed. And that's how each one of these pieces works. So the fighter is duplicated for the paladin. So let me just go through this again really quick. We need this label because we need to go back to it to basically create a small loop within this parallel event, which is a big loop, right? Because parallel events just keep running over and over again. So somebody presses the F key, right? The player presses the F key. Conditional branch. If using a script, input.is triggered the F key. If they press the F key, it's going to check this conditional branch. If, get rid of there, if the switch for fighter is off, right, so it's not being shown, it's not open, then show the picture, turn the switch on, wait 1 frame, and then jump to label fighter, right, so that it can check again. And when the F key isn't triggered, it gets down here and it says, hey, here's another conditional branch. We didn't get to this before, right, because the F key was pressed. And then if fighter is on, if that switch is on, then jump back to the label for fighter. And it's just going to keep looping until the F key is pressed again. And when the F key is pressed again, it's going to check, is the switch on or off? Oh, it's on. So let me do what the else branch says. Erase the picture, turn the switch off, and then it's ready to just keep running. So what you're going to see is once you have this running properly, you just copy and paste it, and you'll notice here is my second part. And change the label to paladin, change the script to a P, change the conditional branch here for the switch to paladin if the paladin switch is off, change my picture number, right? I have a different picture and I have a different image, different location. Change the switch to paladin. Let me explain that 1 frame again. Jump to label paladin. You want to jump back here, and then the else branch. Erase picture. Make sure it's the second picture, right? Because up here was the picture 1. This is picture 2. The switch for paladin, so change fighter to paladin, and then this conditional branch, same thing. Change the switch from fighter to paladin, and then jump to label paladin, right? So you just got to change all of these things, and then this part works if the P is pressed. And then the same thing for ranger. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but it's the same thing, just changing the information, right? And then cleric is the same way. It's the same content. You just got to make sure that you pay attention and change the words, the letter that's being pressed, the switches, the picture numbers, right? You got to change all those. Now, just to go back and explain this 1 frame wait. When I tested this the first time, and I did not have this 1 frame wait, right? 1 frame is 1/60th of a second, right? There's 60 frames in a second, so it's 1/60th of a second. When I didn't have that wait, basically when I pressed the key, nothing would happen, because it would what I think was happening was it was recognizing it so fast that it was showing and erasing the picture at one time. It was just like boom, done. And so I was like, oh, that's problematic. Now I will say that I tested this with only one of these. So I don't know if having a bunch of checks would have made a difference, but what I found was without the wait, it didn't do anything. I'd press the key and nothing would happen. And I think it was because it was going so fast, you couldn't see it. It was showing and erasing immediately. when I put the weight of one frame in there, everything was fine. So again, just know that's why it's there. You can experiment. I didn't experiment with a longer weight, like 2 frames, 3 frames, 5 frames. I didn't do that. The thing you want to avoid is if you wait too long, then there might be a delay. So you might press the key and it doesn't record, it doesn't register it, right? Because it was waiting. So that's something you just have to play around with, or maybe you can try the different options of is pressed or is repeated, right? Those are other options. But that is the setup, okay? So this is just a quick simulation of where you might want to allow the player to press certain keys to either open certain things or do certain things, right? And what you have to do is within this here, right? If the F key is being pressed, then you have to tell it in here what to do. And then we're using this part, right? These jump to labels to keep the event, the parallel event, from getting to the rest of this portion down here. We don't want it to, right? We want it to stay where it was initially triggered. So here, if we're in Paladin, if the P is pressed, it basically stays in this little spot until the P is pressed again. And if we press R for Ranger, it stays in this little spot until R is pressed again. And finally, same thing with Cleric. If you press C, it stays in this part of the parallel event until it's pressed again, and then it's free to check the entire parallel event again, right? And just wait for something to be pressed. So that's the functionality. That's one of your options. And again, there are, again, the user Bas2 Yang offered a different way to do this portion, and what they did was they created a function that goes into a plugin, and then you call the function with a script. And I haven't tested it because I don't fully understand what's happening. So I have to do some research. I have to go back and try to look up some of the code to try to understand what it's doing. I have to test it, and then if I can figure it out, and then I can certainly follow up. But it's in the thread that I'm going to link you to, and it's also the same thread is in the plugin header. So you could check it out too, and you could look and say, maybe you know more about coding than I do, and so you might look at it and say, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is doing. So you might go down that road. But anyway, that's the whole thing. So I showed you the event where you use a script, right? You use a script to map a key, and you do your parallel event. This would be parallel event to do that check, right? To see if it's being triggered. But remember, the problem with that is that if you map a key with a script and then you save and completely exit, it's not going to be mapped when you come back to that save file. Then I showed you this event, which would be parallel, and that was just how to do the series of conditional branches to make sure that your plugin is right, that everything in the plugin is working correctly the way it's supposed to. And then I showed you this event, right? In parallel. Again, it could be a map event, or you could make it a common event. And I went through each one of these sections, and I described exactly what it's doing and how it's basically getting, stopped in one area. So if you press the F key, it's just going to keep checking here until the F key is pressed again. Okay? And I showed you that functionality, and then I showed you the plugin. Right, this is the entire contents of the plugin. We talked about the key code and why it's important, and how you have to designate the key right on the keyboard. Told you how to basically, take this content, copy and paste it from the description, or retype it, whatever you want to do, and save it as a JavaScript file. And so then it'll show up as a .js file, and I showed you where to put that, right? So JS folder, project folder, right? This is my backup. These are my backup files. But project folder, JS folder, plugins folder, and copy and paste it. And then we also covered you have to go into the plugin manager and turn it on, right? Double click, pull down, pick whatever it is, and then turn it on. Okay, so I think that's everything. I think I covered everything. I hope I did. So again, in the video description, I will put a link to the website where you can check the JavaScript code, the keyboard code. I will put a link to the thread for the forums where I went through this whole thing, and then again the alternate possible way of doing those conditional branches if you want to experiment with it. I have not done so yet. And then I will also copy and paste the plugin content itself. I don't have any place to upload the plugin so that you can download it. Sorry, I don't have one. I wonder if I could do that on the thread. I might try to do that. I might try to attach it to the thread on the forums as a plugin, and that way it might be an easier way to find it. So check out that thread, because if I'm successful, there will be an attachment in the thread, probably in my last message, and then that way you could simply download the plugin. That might work. So anyway, listen, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was helpful to folks, and hopefully you can figure out lots of different ways that you can play around with this. And I know that I'm going to end up using something similar to this in an RPG maker. I'm sorry, in an RPG game that I'm slowly working on. Once I finish my Sudoku game and some other things, but it's more of a longer term project. So I hope this is helpful. If you do find these videos helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, getting notifications. Love to get comments. I try to respond to all the comments. And I do these the best way that I can. I don't do anything fancy. I don't do like a big fancy intro and all this other stuff. I just record these to the simplest way possible when I have some quiet time, which isn't as often, just to get them out there to see if these help folks. I hope they do. All right. Well, anyway, hopefully I'll have some more videos coming up as I do some different things. I do need to do a video. I need to update my last video about the recreating the Eye of the Beholder character creation process. I need to add a couple things to it, and then I'm going to do a tutorial for that, because somebody asked about it, said they would like to see the tutorial, and looks like quite a few people have viewed it, and they're giving it thumbs up. So I'm going to follow up on that as well as other things. So in the meantime, folks, I hope you're having a great new year, because it's January 2nd now. I hope you have a great new year. Hope you've had a great holiday season. If you're working in RPG Maker, I hope you're having a blast. I love RPG Maker. I love playing with it. I love learning new things. I love making stuff. So hopefully you're having a good time. So until I have a chance to do another video, happy holidays, happy new year, good luck on your projects, happy game developing, happy gaming, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.